Thank you for staying with us. The issue of deportation is not a new one, but the scale of deportations in recent years have raised alarm across Nigeria. Many deportees return home with nothing, with little support, struggling to reintegrate back into the society, and without any skill to contribute meaningfully to Nigeria's economic growth. The impact is felt both on personal and national levels. The joblessness and even psychological trauma is a burden that everybody should be concerned about. The ramification is so much. However, there are opportunities for reform and support, and it's essential to understand the bigger picture. To unpack these challenges, let us look at some data on deportation. Ghana in 2019 deported 723 Nigerians. The Ghanaian Immigration Service cited offenses such as cyber crimes, prostitution, and visa violation as the reason for deportation. Also, Nigeria in the past, in 1983, carried out mass deportation during the Shehu Shagari's administration, expelling about 1 million African immigrants under a policy that was aimed at protecting the local economy. Also, we have data, you remember in 2024, I remember Libya deported more than 200 Nigerians who were attempting to cross into Europe. The UK deported about 44 Nigerians in 2024. And also, the current US President, Donald Trump, has said that some Nigerians may be deported back to Nigeria. We are looking at statistics, more than 3,000 Nigerians may be coming back to Nigeria. Those who are on visitor visas and business visas. So, why are Nigerians being deported? To help us make sense of the discussions we have today is an expert that is going to be helping us, make sense of this discussion. But that will be after we come back from this break. Don't go nowhere. This is Political Talk, and my name is Ubong Usora.
Get credible and authentic housing news at your fingertips by downloading the Housing TV mobile app. You can also join the African International Housing Show live from across the globe through the Housing TV mobile app. The mobile app features live streaming and trending housing news. You can locate the AIHS venue via the app, network with AIHS seasoned speakers, and live chat with exhibitors. You can also order house or building materials at AIHS via this app. Download the Housing TV mobile app now from the App Store and Google Play Store. And don't forget to click on the notification button. Available for both iOS and Android users. Housing TV is also on Star Times, channel 149 decoder.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Political Talk, where we make sense of discussions and discuss issues that will help Nigeria grow. To help us make sense of the discussion today is a migration expert and somebody who's done a lot of work with NGOs, helping people understand how to reintegrate into the society, Mr. Sullivan Inyanyi. Welcome to Housing TV, Sullivan Inyanyi. How are you today? The issue of deportation. Why are Nigerians being deported?
Well, first of all, the issue of deportation is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. If you check sometime last year, before Trump's administration, when Biden deportation around June last year, Biden deported about 271,000 immigrants to about 192 countries. So, and the 271,000 immigrants might not just be Nigerians alone. So the issue of deportation is not just peculiar to Nigeria. So we should try as much as possible to make sure that we take it off, Nigeria alone as a case study. In as much as a lot of Nigerians will be part of this deportation, but we must understand that Nigerians are not just the only people that it will be affected. That's one. Then two, Ubong, you see, the era of what we used to say Japa, that's where I know it will affect a lot of Nigerians. And take it or leave it, a lot of Nigerians, go to the US with the B visa. The B visa is the visiting visa, and when you're entering a country with a visiting visa, you don't have residence. you only have a few months or a year to stay, depending on what the immigration has at that time was able to give you, on point of arrival or point of entry, depending on what they choose to call it. And let's say that you are given 6 months, for instance. Yeah, so when you enter such country with a visiting visa that is supposed to last maybe 6 months, depending on what they give you at the point of entry, and after the visa that stay must have expired, you decide to stay back because your motive for coming was not just to visit. In as much as you took the visiting visa to come, but your ulterior motive is to stay back after the month of stay. And it affects, that's why you become an illegal immigrant. Yeah, in as much as you were given, of course, you were given visa before you came into the country. But when you now stay more than they expected, you become illegal. So a lot of Nigerians must have traveled to the US during this JAPA period, visiting visas. And after the expiry of the stay, definitely they become illegal. And America, like everybody will tell you, just find your way across. Once you're there, nobody disturbs you. Nobody cares to know if you're an illegal immigrant or not until you run into trouble, with authorities. That's when they'll start processing, are you even legally residing in the country or not? But as long as you're there, provided you've been able to avoid some of these issues, getting into trouble with the authorities, they feel you're comfortable. But what Trump is trying to do now is whether you're having issues with authorities or not, wherever you are, because there's what they call contact tracing, which of course at the point of entry, when you came in, there are residential addresses that are verifiable. There are authentic addresses of people whom you're visiting or places where you're visiting. So now when you start doing contact tracing, they'll have to start going to those places you submitted at the initial stage and start looking out for you. So that is what is happening. And that's why you're seeing a lot of persons that are being deported. It's not just Nigeria. About 100 and something countries are also affected. Not just Nigeria. But yes, we're talking about Nigeria because we're involved. And of course, take it or leave it. There was a period where everybody wants to leave the shores of this country. The period will say everybody wants to Japa. So Nigerians will definitely be involved. Why? Because a lot of persons must have left this country of ours through visiting visas, or tourist visas, to stay for a few months or few years, as the case may be. And after this period has expired, they've refused to come back home. And that is why we're going to have some challenges now.
Some of the people that are in the diaspora sold everything they have.
Yes, of course.
They left, going for greener pastures, selling everything they have and expecting that when they get there, they'll be able to make a life. And some of them, are just struggling, doing menial jobs, and now they may be, sent back to the country. So it's a lot. It's going to affect people's mental health. And don't you think there should be some level of soft landing where the government gets to talk to them and maybe even offer them a pathway towards getting permanent residency?
Well, if you follow Trump right from this first tenure, he may not just Trump actually, but let's use Trump now as a case study since he's the president right now as we speak. If you follow Trump right from his first tenure, there's never been a soft landing for deportation. There's never been a soft landing for illegal immigrants. What are we talking about? When we say illegal immigrant, you've entered the country or you've defaulted or you failed the immigration laws of that country. Example is the ones I gave you. You have a period of so and so time to stay. And after that time, you're expected to go back to your country. Now, when that time elapses and you refuse to move, you become illegal. There are some of them who are, when you mentioned menial jobs, there are some of them who have legitimate businesses after they arrive. But for the fact that you've now faulted or flouted some of these immigration policies, your business is now illegal. You can no longer parade yourself as someone who is legitimately doing the business, because you cannot be legitimately doing a business in a country where you're residing illegally. It becomes a problem. So there is no soft landing. And let me give you a tip. In Colombia was supposed to receive 2 military planes, carrying their citizens back from America. And the Colombian government said no, they cannot approve those 2 planes to land in Colombia because their citizens cannot be treated in disdain. They was treated with respect and not like criminals. And guess what? Trump told them that if you don't accept that those deportees, I'm actually going to give a stiffer or punitive measures to increase your tariffs in the U.S. And they don't have a choice. They have to accept. So there are no sort of will I say rehabilitation or palliative measures to see if there's a way they can accommodate them. As a matter of fact, I want to believe that Trump is trying to reduce the population of the United States of America.
Okay, Mr. Sullivan, let me take you on. You remember that Nigeria at the time deported about 1 million people. Most of them were West Africans. And we still have a lot, if you go by data, we still have a lot of illegal immigrants in Nigeria. Is it not about time? Because our borders are very porous. That's like an old song. Is it not about time where we sit down as a country, take stock of people who are Nigerians indeed, and maybe carry out some of these measures too?
Now, see, America is a well-civilized country. America is a developed country. It's a developed country, not a developing, not underdeveloped. America has a database. America wants you to be profiled so that they can assess you at any time, know who you are and how to go about you. Now, in Nigeria, Obong, when was the last time you had a census? Let's start from there. Now, how do you know someone who is not a Nigerian? How can you
We're supposed to
differentiate
have
a
one
Nigerian
last year.
God bless you. But it didn't come true. So how are you going to differentiate a Nigerian from a Cameroonian? How are you going to differentiate a Nigerian from someone who is from Gabon or Ghana, for instance, if they are not talking, if they are not exchanging, pleasantries or decide to talk, then maybe from the accent you can say, oh, this guy is a Ghanaian and this guy is from Cameroon. Apart from that, Obong, it's difficult to even differentiate. Or you find now, do we even have a database? How many persons are in Nigeria now? How many are we as citizens of this country? Where if someone wants to quote, they'll say Nigeria is about 200 million plus. What is the plus? Nigeria is estimated about 200 million people. Estimated at. So when was the last census? So you cannot really say this is a database in the country. It's not possible. But for instance, America has a database of each and every person who is residing in America legitimately. Now, trying to fish out those that are staying there illegitimately, it's what is the program, is a crusade that is on now. And that is what Trump is fighting for. There are a lot of persons in America who are residing in America illegally, and those are the people they want to fish out and take them back to their country.
Mr. Sullivan, let me take you to history. Let me take you down history lane. Down history lane. You remember the formation of the U.S. They started as different counties, 13 counties at the time, and all of that. These were people that came from Scotland, from the UK. The population that can say they are Native Americans, is nothing to be compared to those that came from different places. That's why you hear them say they are tracing their roots. You see people who have Scottish roots, who have Irish roots, and all of that. And people are saying that America is a free land. It's a land of the free, a land of freedom where people can come in and, pursue the American dream. Do you think this is a right foreign policy for America, who's been like the senior brother to the rest of the world for a long time? I understand the part where people who are criminals that should be sent out. But for people who are legitimately living in America, can we not overlook the fact that they came in illegally? Maybe because they could not afford the money, to go into the U.S. legally.
Obong, you see, even Donald Trump himself, his father is a German immigrant to America. The mother, Scottish immigrant to America. Do you understand? So, doing a legitimate business is one thing, like I said initially. But staying in that same country where you're doing the same legitimate business, illegally, is another thing. I'll give you a typical example. In Nigeria, for instance, I saw a young man some couple of years back. He's from Cameroon. He has a barbering salon in Nigeria. But he came in through the back door illegally. But he has been residing in Nigeria for a couple of years, doing his legitimate business. He doesn't have issues with anybody or with the authorities. He's not a criminal. He has a shop. Such a person is doing the legitimate business. But a day came when the immigration came to his office, a shop, as the case may be, and arrested him. And because he came in through the back door, he came in illegally, they had to deport him. That doesn't matter. That the business he does not matter. What matters is, have you been able to follow our immigration laws to the letter? Have you flouted our immigration laws? Yes. If you flouted our immigration laws, what are the punitive measures to it? If deportation is one of them, then you'll be deported, irrespective of if you're doing a legitimate business. Now,
Thank you.
saying that there are some Nigerians who reside in America, yes. Are they doing business in America? In fact, I have a friend who has been in America for a couple of years. I'm afraid this might even affect him. He has a business in America, but he has issues with immigration. His documents with his stay, why the papers at which he's staying in America, I have one or two issues. So there's no way the person can come out and say, I'm a legitimate, person in America. The person is staying there illegally.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Let's go for a short break, and when we're back, we'll continue this discussion. Why are Nigerians being deported from various countries in the world? Join us again. This is Political Talk with Ubong Usoro.
Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts on Facebook, Housing TV Africa, on Twitter, Housing TV Africa, Instagram, Housing TV Africa. Join the conversation and keep up with latest housing updates.
We're back on the show. My name is Ubong Usoro, and this is Political Talk. We have a migration expert who is on the show with us, Sullivan Inyanyi. And today we are looking at a closer view. Why are Nigerians being deported from various countries in the world? Sullivan, let me talk to you. From your work with deportees, what are the most immediate challenges they face when they return to Nigeria? Because at this point, we are starting to accept the fact that we may be seeing some of our brothers, some of our cousins who've been in the U.S. coming back. So what are some of the challenges they're going to face? They will be leaving their businesses. Some will leave with just the clothes that they wore the day they were caught by immigration, put on the plane with nothing to their name. And they'll be coming back to start in the Nigerian palace the same from square one. So what are some of the challenges these people face? Because you worked with them and you have practical experience in that field.
Mr. Sora, let me give you a background knowledge of this whole thing. If you go to India, for instance, we have a lot of Nigerians that are in prison in India, courtesy of immigration offenses. And we discovered that some Nigerians find it difficult to move from Nigeria to India with the Nigerian passport. You can go and verify, do your findings. Some of these guys, they go as far as using Ivory Coast passport, Ivorian passport, bearing Ivorian names, then travel to India. And these men, the immigration there, they know these things. They know all of these things are happening. And once they're apprehended, they put them in prison, waiting for who will come from Nigeria or whatever association in Nigeria will bear them and, of course, bring them back to Nigeria. And most of these Asian countries don't even have the luxury of time or privilege to even deport you themselves. They will wait for Nigerians to come and pick their citizens back to Nigeria. That is one. And when they come back to Nigeria, like I'm just laying the background. When they come back to Nigeria, there are businesses they've already started doing in India or in America or China, wherever it is. Now, they are coming back to Nigeria more like people who are starting afresh in a new city. And that is where the diaspora woman will come in. The CEO, MD is the CEO of Diaspora Commission, Ms. Abike Dabre. That's where she comes in now. Now, these persons, when they come in, they're coming with empty hands. Some of them come from detention to the country. They don't, and once you're being arrested as an illegal immigrant, there's no chance for you to go back to your home to put things together. There's no room for you to go back to your office or your workplace or your business place to put things together and gather a few things to come back. No. Once you're being apprehended as an illegal immigrant, you're moved from that point to authorities, from the authorities to a detention ground, from detention ground to the airport, from the airport to your country. That is how it's done. Now, you can imagine someone who owns a car shop in America. Although it's not easy to own a car shop in America when you're an illegal immigrant. Let's also note that fact. Before you get into business to a point where you own a car shop in America, I mean, it's not just registering the businesses and all of that requires you being legitimate, resident in America or in some other countries too that are civil. life. So abandoning these businesses to Nigeria, now you're coming to start afresh. And there is no palliative measure from the government to say, okay, while you are still trying to put your ads together, these things will help you cushion yourself till you find your feet. I don't think there are such things like that. Even if there are, it's immeasurable. You can't compare it. It's infinitesimal rather to what you've already acquired, what you've built over the years from the country where you're being deported from. Let's take, for instance, you have a shop where you sell clothing in America, or you have a partner shop, or you're partnering with somebody in America where you do, let's say, grocery or restaurant, or as the case may be, and they're now deported. What is the government going to give to you upon arrival to your country that you can manage or that you can use to cushion yourself, to a point where to the point where you can, get back to your feet? There's no such, and let's not forget that the government did not even ask you to travel illegally in the first place. So you're on your own. The risk is high. The risk is high, and that's why when you tell people this Japa thing is, for me, not the best option, in as much as a lot of persons will say, well, the country might be too hard. If you see means of traveling abroad, come on, go ahead and travel abroad. But sometimes you get there and you're stranded.
Yeah, you know that many Nigerians look at the only pathway they have towards escaping poverty is leaving the country. In fact, it is so sad that people are ready to trek the Sahara, get to Libya, cross the Mediterranean, get into Europe, and in expectation that they are going to get a better life. And you know how much the diaspora community supports people in Nigeria. I know so many mothers in the villages that are being supported by their children who are outside the country. I know many, many stuff that are being done by people who are outside the country. So these people support Nigerians. These people help a lot of. So if we didn't even have that population outside, you could imagine what would have happened in the country. So for you, it may not be a problem because you are comfortable, and it does not matter, you don't want to travel. So, but for many Nigerians, that is the pathway to escaping poverty.
Listen, no, Ubong, it's not about if I'm comfortable and I don't want to travel, that's why I'm standing the way I'm standing. No. The main essence of one living from this country, example Nigeria, to Canada or America is in search of greener pasture. That's number one. Now, going there legally, fine. When you hear that deporting Nigerians, they're not deporting every Nigerian in America. When you hear that it's deportation, it's not every immigrant in America. The only people that are deporting are the people who are staying in America illegally. For crying out loud, let's do the right thing for once. If there are some Nigerians who are in America today that are legitimately staying in America, doing their legitimate business. The other day, a lady was promoted to the rank of Brigadier General in the U.S. Army. Is she going to come back because she's a Nigerian? Are they going to deport her because she's a Nigerian? The answer is no.
Mr. Sullivan, most of the Nigerians that are now legal immigrants in in the U.S. were at the time illegal immigrants.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible that some Nigerians that are now legal immigrants were at some point illegal immigrants. But within a short time frame, they were able to find their feet, fix the things that are supposed to be fixed, to make themselves, they are still legitimate. Now, if you've been unable to do that, it becomes a problem for you. I don't know if you understand my standpoint. Yes, it's good you're leaving the country, being sort of greener pastures, no doubt. But when you're doing it illegally, you just mentioned moving through the Sahara as one. You know the number of Nigerians that have died through the Sahara, traveling to Europe via the Sahara Desert. Do you know how many Nigerians that have died in the shores of Libya, trying to travel to Italy from Libya? Now, you're taking this bold risk. At the end, I've seen where some persons have been arrested and they're saying, I can't go back to Nigeria. I'd rather die here than going back to the country. I don't think it's that bad in the country where you say you'd rather die in the process of traveling out than coming back to Nigeria. I don't. Let's start ourselves.
All right, Mr. Sullivan, I understand, but when you look at some of these statistics, so many Nigerians can't even afford 3 square meal, as they call it. Some Nigerians now eat once a day. Their salaries can't take anything. Inflation everywhere. There's so many issues in the country, you know. So maybe these are part of the reasons. But before we go, because we are running out of time now, I'd like to ask you now the last question for this show. What can we do as a country so that we don't have many Nigerians wanting to leave the country? In my university, I know how many colleagues of mine have left the country. What can we do in 30 seconds, Mr. Sullivan, so that Nigerians will graduate from university or wherever and they want to put in service in this country called Nigeria?
First of all, a lot of Nigerians can't even afford 1 point meal a day, not to talk of 3 square meal. Now, talking about what to do so that people will stop living. Sincerely, our economy is in shambles, that's number one. But we cannot believe the government will do everything for us. You know, there's a scheme going on now. I don't know, saying this on air might be more like running an advert for them. So I don't want to mention names. I think we should start thinking outside the box. We should start thinking outside, waiting for employment from either private institutions or government institutions.
Ultimately, we must work together to create a society where Nigerians will not be in a hurry to travel out of the country. And that's all for today's episode of Political Talk. My name is Ubong Usoro. Join us for the next edition where we'll have more insightful discussions on how to make this country better.